So if I can put the entire thing in a couple of buckets, right? This is absolutely, as the business is challenged, the CFOs are tremendously challenged. The CFO's role goes in tandem with how the business goes, right? And I don't think any of the CFOs ever thought that a pandemic sort of a situation will arise, right? Therefore, when we make our business plans or when we talk about futures or we talk about M&As or whatever it is, we always assume that the business is going to grow at X percentage. If it doesn't grow at X, Y, if it grows at Y percent, then what I can do, something like that, right? But I have never never in my entire career, ever imagined that the business will shut down. Then what do? Right? And therefore, I think so managing this disruption. Now, disruptions have been going on for quite a while, right? So if you look at, the business models are changing itself. But I think this was such an event where even if you had changed your business model in some form or the other, this scenario would not have helped you in managing that, that disruption itself. So I think these types of disruptions are here to stay, and therefore all CFOs will have to just manage it, which means when you talk to your businesses or you talk to your CEOs or you're partnering with the businesses, you will have to now randomly think of planning very haphazardly. Let me put it this way. If I'm using the word haphazardly for lack of any word, but what happens if everything shuts down? How would you revive the business, right?
Maybe the agile working.
Agile way of working, absolutely the right word, agile way of working. How do you do all these sort of things?
Right.
Now that's sorry, Aksh, you were saying something.
No, very interesting. No, that's the right thought, Rajesh. I was just, didn't want to stop you there. But I just, before, I had a few sets of questions for myself, and I've, been CFO, like Deepak said, in my past avatar. I've been, CFO in India. I've been a CFO in countries outside of India. A lot of CFOs have worked with me, and then after a long time, I said, okay, let me take a pot shot and move away from CFO and feel how it is when rubber hits the road.
Yep.
But so I'm very, all these are very, and after speaking to a lot of CFOs, there's a lot of common themes like the one that you said, are emerging, the agile way of working. But what's very interesting and actually very curious, that Wells Fargo is a bank, and bank have the most evolved risk management and the BCP plans, than any other industry anywhere that you would see, right? And even the level of governance, whether in US, India is probably an evolving market, but US, European, the number of statutes that we have, which force us to actually plan for those eventualities. All of a sudden, something like this hits, and then we realize that no, everything that we planned for, actually none of this works.
Correct, absolutely. So, for example, when a bank or any financial institution, why just banks, right? It plans for its BCP, it plans BCP on the basis of a natural disaster, a storm, an earthquake, or whatever it may be, or if the technology fails in some manner, right? I don't think it had ever imagined that what would happen if your people are not going to be able to access their systems, will not be able to reach their offices. So, for example, we are hypersensitive about our data, right? Security of the data for us is paramount.
Of course.
So a whole lot of ops people, they were never given laptops, right?
Correct.
Because they would come to office and work because we wanted them to work in that protected environment, right? Now, all of a sudden, 24th of March comes, or 24th, 23rd, whatever the date was, I've forgotten the date now. But you suddenly have 60% of the people not being able to access work at all. What do you do in such cases?
Correct.
Your entire BCP scenario is gone for a 6.
Correct. The entire theory was earlier that, yes, people will keep away the belongings, nothing will be brought on the shop floor, you lock it away, no pen, paper allowed, people under monitoring. All of a sudden now people will be working from the homes.
Yep. And move that into a manufacturing organization is no different, really.
Yeah.
Because how will they reach the factories and all that to work? right?
Yeah.
Now, that was, I think, one of the bigger challenges with the CFOs, and they now will have to probably, you know, keep this as one of the plans that, yeah, if this happens, then how is my business going to get impacted? How am I going to recover? So, which basically means that how can I make my business more resilient to such external events?
Right. But Rakesh, you touched upon a very interesting point of working from home. Two questions. One is, of course, and you spoke earlier about, the IT security being paramount. Do you see this as a threat for work from home? I mean, I know it's touch wood, nothing has happened for now, right? But as I say, lawbreakers are always wiser than lawmakers.
Mm-hmm.
So how long do you think this work from home concept from an IT security standpoint do you think can continue? And I'm also aware of a lot of these malware attacks or ransomware attacks on multiple organizations, right? Cognizant, I can HCL, and quite a few others have already gone through. So it's just a matter of time when does any other large financial institutions may also go through that. So that's one. And second is, again, that work from home concept. You've invested so much time, money, energy, cost in building these campuses, nice and attractive campuses where you're attracting talent. What happens to that?
I wish I had answer on the second question, but the first one, let me put it this way. I think all organizations, whether it's just the financial institutions or something, they will have, I think there'll be a huge amount of investment in the the infrastructure space, the security space going forward.
Sure.
Because I think at least for the next few years, this work from home concept will remain, right? Till probably, and I don't think it is anything to do with vaccine, but it is more of a mindset of people where people will think, yeah, working from home is not as productive. Now, I'm probably of a different generation. I think working from home is not as productive as working from the office. Younger people absolutely, totally disagree with me. But
Right.
I believe that human interface, a chat over a cup of coffee, gives you a lot more impetus, gives you a lot of understanding of what's in the minds of the people and what's going in the organization, than rather than having a Zoom call, right?
I agree, 100%.
Minority. I may be in the minority sooner, but that's the way it is. So I think from that perspective, a lot of investment will have to go into that area. Now, we've heard, even Cognizant's attack impacted us quite a bit because we have about 300, 400 contractors.
Okay, you've outsourced.
So we had to isolate our systems totally, so that the the Cognizant people will not have access to us. So what also happens is, like, typically the Cognizant people also are given a Wells Fargo LIS access mail, right?
Right.
Right. So they had to do all sorts of stopping those mails, and
Did it impact your systems at all?
No, it didn't impact our system much because we isolated very quickly. So
Excellent.
That was the thing. Secondly, on your, talking about the investment in offices and all that, I think, so there are two ways I would look at it, Akshay. One way would be is, if you're going to be, I now believe that 1/3 of people, and anything between 30 to 35 to 40% of the people, will continuously work from office by rotation, right? So if I have 100 people, I will only bring about 60, 65 sort of people in the office at any one point of time, and I will tell 30, 35%, please work from home, come by rotation. You may have some hot seats, concept of, my specific desks may go away and move into a hot seat where you book yourself and then come in. This will certainly, I think, help in optimization costs. But in this area, I think there are people reacting in different manner, right? There are certain organizations who are continuing to take more space, right?
Correct. Because you get a rent-free period and a longer-term lease.
Whatever, longer-term lease or whatever it may be. Or you're thinking that you're going to grow very significantly. If your, say, density was 100 square feet an individual, you may, from a social distancing perspective, may increase it to 120, 125, 130, whatever it is, right? So you'll crash your number of seats in some form or the other. But there are also large multinationals I have heard of in Hyderabad who are giving away space and said, not giving away the old space, but they were looking for, they would have renewed or leased out new spaces, which they would not have done much about it. But they're saying, I don't need this place anymore. Let me give it away. So the optimization of costs will probably be another factor as well. Because again, a lot of multinationals, and I don't know from an Indian organization's perspective how many have done that. I doubt whether a lot of people have done. They are investing very heavily by setting up a home sort of an office for their employees, right? So they're giving them a desk, they're giving them a chair, they're giving all sorts of the perks, right? So that they can continue to work from home in a longer manner. Right?
Yeah. No, I know we work for many of our customers who are doing that. Right now, I mean, we've been actually helping them set up home offices, providing ergonomic chairs, ergonomic desks, and whatnot. The issues that we deal with still, right, in those situations is, one is you can provide those furniture, but if there are cities like Mumbai or even families in Bangalore where there is a male, there is a husband and a wife working and two kids running around amok in the house, and also their parents staying there in a 2-bedroom apartment, then you find the space, your isolated space at all times, and actually getting the personal lives and the professional lives getting crisscrossed at all times. So these are all arrangements to actually weather through the short term situation. The question everyone's been asking: how long is this sustainable for a longer period of time?
Yeah. So Ash, I've been hearing from my team saying that when can we get back to office? And could this be some of the reasons? Everybody cannot afford a 3-bedroom or a larger house, right? People live in smaller houses. As you said, the wife could be working, or they may be having kids who are also going through the same challenges, through going online classes, etc., right?
Yeah,
so, if you don't have a large enough home, it's a huge challenge for them to manage it, right? So, I somehow feel that the women probably have suffered more in this pandemic. Speaking of my, colleagues on my team who are, women, I certainly see the stress on them, and I try and have a Zoom call with them. So I do see the stress on their faces of managing the homes, managing the houses, managing office work, etc., etc. But that's a different matter. That's a social challenge which we'll all have to live with. In our cultural, the way our culture is. So that's another challenge for us.
But there's big economics, right? I mean, at the end of the day, everything works around the economics. So there is a heavy cost or significant amount of cost on running the expensive facilities. That's on one side, but also on the other side is also, Rakesh, the exemptions on the tech side, on STPI, SEZs, that is available only till end of the year for now. I'm sure it might get extended a little bit, but I'm not sure how long, or will the government want to just remove those restrictions permanently, or they would probably give a 3-month, 6-month restriction. Do you have a view on that?
Yeah, so NASSCOM has presented. So I think NASSCOM, and we were also part of it. We presented one for technology companies specifically on the OSP guidelines you would have heard of.
Right, correct. Yes.
There were telecom regulations. We managed to change those telecom regulations on a regular basis. The tax laws haven't changed. I am not too sure whether the government would be able to change the SEZ laws. And frankly, unless they say for IT companies, there is a different set of income tax and SEZ rules. And for the rest of the enterprise, there's a different set of rules. Because, I mean, the dubious minds we Indians are in, I mean, we always find loopholes in everything. So if you have a manufacturing SEZ, they will get it manufactured in some other location and still show it as an SEZ revenue. and you'll be able to, save on taxes. So I think that will probably be going in the minds of the people, of the regulators. So I am not very optimistic on that on a regular basis. It may get extended by 6 months, 1 year, or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
That throws up another challenge because the regulations don't change. So right now, what has happened, right? We have people who come from interior Andhra, right? They've
Right.
all gone to their hometown,
Exactly.
small villages, or whatever they may be,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So that's, if now, if they have to come back to Hyderabad, if the government says that, or the government will say these SEZ laws will only apply to the city where you work from. So it doesn't mean that you can work from anywhere. So I don't know which way the government is thinking. I've been asking my friends in Big Four as what their thoughts in the government are. None of them know really in which way it is going.
Yeah. So we used to, I mean, again, Kiran Karnik and some of these folks have been, I've been working with them previously, and most of my friends in IT, they feel that it's likely that you will get an extension for now because of all the representations which are being made, and it is unlikely that the permanent change in the law will be coming anytime soon. So I don't know how much that is true, but yeah, thoda extension to mil jayega till the time there is a little bit of a vaccine that's available with people.
Yeah, I don't know. I have my own challenges. Kitna din milega? So we'll see.
Right. So Rakesh, do you have operations in the Indian market also, or is it you're primarily working only for the US market on IT and okay?
We don't have a license here. We have a
Right.
rep
Exactly.
office. We have a rep office in Mumbai,
Right.
which can only deal with financial institutions.
Right. Right. Right.
And they can't do any transaction in India. The transaction has to be outside India.
Right.
Actually, one of the good aspects from an SEZ industry or for the companies or IT segment would be on the gift city, because something I'm exploring right now. The only challenge I see is from a talent perspective. I don't know how many people will be willing to go and live in Gandhinagar.
Correct. And especially with this virtual world and this uncertainty, it just kind of creates, even more issues.
Yeah.
And really, the math has to be between the amount of tax that you save. But if you want to get into a virtual world, completely virtual world, like TCS has been talking of, then you also get to save on facilities. So where do how do you balance the two?
Yeah.
And also then the other comes, the other aspects of risk and security and people and the knowledge and the employee bonding aspect, and like you mentioned, meeting the person across on a cup of tea, and has a much more value. But tell me, the other thing, Rakesh, which I'm very curious, right? And I'm not going to ask you all the rhetoric questions that I've asked other CFOs, because I'm sure your answer is going to be very close by. All the CFOs are like hardwired to think in the same manner, I believe so. Yeah, but tell me, for you, what are the learnings in this pandemic? So what are the things that you would not do, or the things that you would do now on? So what previously you were probably either ignorant about, or you were probably not indulging yourself into it, but in the post-pandemic area, as a CFO, what are the things that you would want to do more of, and things that you would want to do less of?
I think one of the things which has taught me is, if I go back to my team and I ask my team, hey, let's do this in a digital manner or in an automated manner, my team would always come back and say, no, sir, this can't be done. They'll give me 10 different reasons why it cannot be done, right?
Yeah.
And surprisingly, during pandemic, the team has come up with solutions on their own, right?
Right.
So, I mean, if you're a CA, you would know that we believe in vouchers, we believe in hard paper.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All that disappeared
suddenly disappeared. My team got the entire audit done absolutely virtually. So that means that there are things which can be done definitely much better, right? And in a much quicker manner. It's just that we all as finance folks have to apply their minds in how do you manage your businesses in a more automated manner, right? Seamlessly. I think that gives a much better view of all this, right? Uh, I think the other thing which we have also done is how do I, you know, through some digital dashboards and all that. Now we use certain technologies to be able to create dashboards for my business partners, right, including my CEO and the others. How
Sure.
can we do that more often? Again, in the past, we would probably pick the data, make presentations, and so on and so forth. Now, are we there 100%? We are not there 100%. But this is an area where I think all the finance folks will have to understand going forward. And they will have to think in terms of how do you exploit technology to your advantage. Most of the finance folks have been, shunning about technology in some form or the other, right? Uh,
Mm.
so I think there is a huge opportunity for us to think in terms of how to adapt to newer technologies, right? I think
Right.
that's very, very big plus point of this pandemic. And
Right.
in fact, I'm sure there are tons of jokes which are going around in either WhatsApp or LinkedIn that how does your digital technology, when did you become fully digital? And there were a few questions, and one of the answers was, is it because of the pandemic? And I think majority of the people said, yes, it's because of the pandemic.
Yeah, because you're forced to adapt these,
Yeah.
accelerated adoption. Yeah.
So how
So
can we do?
just to add to this question, Rakesh, so what are the financial folks who will tell them how they need to be what they need to do for the upskilling for the future? Is it just the technology part, or is there anything else that you will also advise them for the upskilling part? Yeah.
I would see one is not necessarily understand all the new technology. I mean, not really know the technology. But I think it's more important is what the technology can do for you is extremely important. And therefore, to keep an open mind that if you have a problem, let's try and find a solution through technology rather than find a solution in any other form,
Yeah.
right? I think
So,
that's one of the most important aspects
yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Upskilling is important. All the standard sort of things is there. I think also I see in various finance teams, which is happened is after a certain time, and probably it happens everywhere, people stop learning, right? People just get too glued to their work, right? I think they will have to start learning much more, right? Things are happening just too rapidly. I mean, the speed of change is so dramatic now, that people will just have to adapt to it. And sorry, you were saying
Yeah.
something.
No, no. So, Rakesh, if I was to just throw a curveball, previously in the pre-pandemic area, most of the CFOs would actually want to do an ROI before you actually go out and start investing in technology, right? So, and especially in a country like India, where the cost of operation is significantly lower in comparison to many of the other developed countries, right? So the ROI response has generally turned out to be, the return is over 5-year period and 6-year period, and that's how the level of excitement around investing significant dollars in technology has been getting pushed out. Uh, in the recent experience now, people had no choice, right? So you had no choice but to adapt to it, and irrespective of the amount of money. So nobody is doing any ROI. Nobody is thinking, okay, do I need to do it? Because they want the technology to sustain their business, to run the business, the common processes. So how can you connect at home? How can you connect? And that's connectivity, virtual technology. And that's what it is, right? But then you also see now the pandemic receding a little bit, people adapting, opening out a little bit. The connectivity and the way you have to adopt is still accepted, or is still at an acceptable level. The real technology or the new tech which the companies are investing, whether it's in robotics, or IoT or machine learning or VA, ML, artificial intelligence, all those things, the benefits there are still in that, in that doubtful category, or a little bit of a question mark as to how much money you want to invest in AI and what is the return that you get in from that investment. Or could you actually have a team to actually do that dashboarding, or could you actually have a team to do that piece, right? So when I hear from you, and I like the fact that you're saying pandemic has forced the acceleration of adoption of technology, but is it the technology to continue to run your business, or is it that you are genuinely thinking then of getting to the technology into a different space altogether, where you would be willing to make investments in tech areas and not worry too much on the ROI, or for the matter, have a higher level of confidence on the ROI making big investments? I
I
don't know
would say
if I'm
that we
able
will.
to explain my question.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. To me, I think running the business is one side. I think with all these, you'll have to really think of how we're going to transform the business. And
Right.
once you're thinking in terms of a business transformation, then you have no other choice except to invest in technology. And therefore, you will have to take, eye shot here and say, yeah, okay, this ROI will work at some point of time. Because if you don't invest in technology, your business may not survive after a few years. And what do you do?
True.
I think that's the biggest challenge, which, and it's a tough question. As a finance person, I would always like to look at ROI. But at the same time, I would also need to understand whether is the business going to be sustainable or not. If I don't invest this, then what happens?
Correct.
And that's, I think, is going to be the bigger challenges which the CFOs are going to face across.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And also with now the the economic effect of the fallout of of the pandemic, the question will be even bigger for everyone. I mean, the technology companies will continue to invest for sure, and the e-commerce companies will continue to invest for sure. It's a question for the other brick and mortar businesses, or the old school businesses, which is not the new tech, in terms of how much or where do you draw a line.
I mean, if you look at even the brick and mortar, have now realized that online presence is a must, right?
Correct.
One is the online commerce part, right? That's another part. But to be able to be visible in social media, talking about it, talking about your product is a game changer from a marketing perspective, reaching out to your customer.
Correct.
That is, I think, will, continue to be very important for them.
Right. No, I understand. Anything on the financials? I mean, any learning with hardcore financials? I know most of the CFOs says they've realized cash is king, which we've learned all these years to make sure that you preserve cash. I'm sure you would not have, Wells Fargo would not have had any of those liquidity concerns.
But I have tons of friends, who are in the business, and when I'm speaking to them, I realize that I guess those people who acted very quickly in the pandemic time to realize they need to conserve cash for a longer period of time did a much better job than compared to the others, right? Many were able to raise capital, whether it's debt capital or equity or whatever it may be, whatever you may call it. But cash in the end is important in your balance sheet. I mean, it may not be king or may not be a king, but it's certainly very important. The challenge also is too much of cash brings down your returns. So that's another challenge, right? But, that's important. I mean, when I speak to a lot of people here, especially in the pharma industry or in the other sort of infrastructure industry, Hyderabad is full of infrastructure.
Yeah, infrastructure and pharma, yeah.
They struggle a lot. Infrastructure people, as it is cash stuff.
Oh, yeah,
capital intensive. Nobody, none of their, customers pay on time, right? A lot of them work with the government, which takes up teen number of months to do it. Banks became extremely cagey in lending out money. See, again, if you talk of Hindustan Levers and Reliances, there's one side, but there's tons of the middle, medium sector enterprises, which probably both front, right? I mean, we can't really compare with the triple A rated companies with, say, just a single A company, right?
Correct.
Those are,
No,
I think, big
I
challenge which,
agree.
yeah, they were facing.
I agree.
So,
But also the maximum amount of these SOPs which have been given out in that 23 lakh crore that Modi announced, which actually vanished in thin air, and everybody kept looking at each other who got what. But I think at least in the speeches and talks of Nitin Gadkari, most of it was directed on MSME, right?
yeah.
Because big corporates would have managed their cash flows, or for the matter, already have existing line of credit, or would have made arrangements to preserve cash. It's the MSME which is most impacted, and they have the maximum benefit as well. But of course, I mean, you're right. I mean, it is always difficult for them to see and plan, and the lines that they have and the credits that they have from the bank also is again very limited. I'm sure they are under tremendous pressure.
All those announcements came in either June or July, right? So by that time, 3 months were already over.
Yeah.
And you talked about it. So from whatever I have read in the papers, the real credit, some sort of picked up only in September, October. That means for 6 months, even those medium sector enterprises were really starved in some form or the other.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges. And just to add another point, and we were talking about, and we digressed a little bit, but I think the most important aspects I see which the CFOs will face is how to manage their talent. How do you retain, how do you hire the best and retain the best? To me, and comes to your question, Deepak, of how do you continuously upskill them, right? How do you, bring them to the modern thinking? It's not only just, your hard skills, but I think the soft skills are extremely important for finance folks. The finance folks at when they are moving up the ladder, their ability to communicate their points of view is very limited, right? So how do you upskill? How do you make sure that they can, communicate very well? I think this will be the biggest challenge for the finance folks in the future is how do you get the best talent? How do you continuously upskill them, retain them, give them an opportunity to do different things, right? How do you also help them to understand work in an agile manner? That means work in a very cross-functional team where constantly things are moving. You don't know whether what you do today will hold relevance tomorrow or not. And something you will have to just change your plan and way if you're thinking tomorrow, because what you did yesterday was probably not relevant anymore, and you have to scrap it all over and start again. So I think these sort of things will become very, very important from the talent agenda of the finance of the CFOs. I don't know what you are hearing, Akshay, from.
Right. No, I think you're right. You're right. No, I think, and I think the agenda is the same and similar across all the functions. I mean, whether it's finance or technology itself, or any other function. I think we were working with. I was earlier on a call with one of our customers.
Mm-hmm.
This is a huge bank like yourself, Barclays.
Mm-hmm.
And they also, while they have an Indian license, but they don't really, other than investment banking, they don't do much in the Indian market. But they have this huge captive IT center as well as the delivery center here in India. So they set up this 14,000 seat office in Pune.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like state of art, everything contactless, everything. They imported murals from Jaipur, and their global CEO just really came down to inaugurate and everything. So it's a totally different world altogether. That's a vertical campus, they call it. And now they are actually, with the pandemic, the big question that they are dealing with is, can they force their employees to come into the office? That's one, because naturally they cannot, despite the fact that they have. So now they're saying, okay, should we now develop a strategy which should be, earlier we were actually thinking of a push factor to get employees to move from Mumbai to Pune on the campus, and get them to work to office and giving them everything in the office. But should we now work on a pull strategy, whereas the office needs to be curated in a manner that people would want to come into office and work from there, rather than actually going and working from home. So you cannot push them, because morally it is not correct. So can you create this wow factor? Can you create this this surprise factor or belongingness in the office? And because that's the only thing that would actually attract and retain the talent, because the office that they have, let's say in Pune, alongside, and I'm sure it's a similar thing at your side, alongside is Swiss Re, then further down is Honeywell, then the next building is that of Accenture. So it's like everyone's coming in, everyone's also around that same belt, same area. So the best of the talent will actually move to the company which is actually giving the best frills and that level of comfort. So it's a they're adopting a different strategy altogether. And talent is a very, very important area. I think everyone is focusing on. One more thing. Sorry,
I wish
you
they
were
were
saying.
successful in doing that pull factor. I don't think anybody has been able to do that, but I'm glad if they are successful.
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of question, right? It's a matter of investment.
Yeah.
It's again that ROI that I was talking of, which all the CFOs will think of. Where do you draw a line? How much do you want to? कहते हैं ना कि हलवे में कितना घी डालो, जितना घी डालोगे, it'll become that tasty, right? Yeah. So tell me, the other thing, Rakesh, is what's your view on productivity? So the productivity has gone up, and this I've heard from many people.
I have a different opinion.
But okay. So I want to understand from you then, what do you think about the productivity during this time, and where do you see this over the next few years, sustainable, going down, going up? What's your thought about it?
My view is that people are saying that you are saving time on commuting, right?
Yeah.
What you are doing is that commute time you're also spending at work. So if I was doing X number of things in 8 hours, I'm probably doing that X number of things in 10 hours today. I am not saying that in 10 hours, I'm actually doing proportionately much more. I don't think it's happening. Maybe in pockets it's happening, but I believe it is people are spending more time to do the same thing, right? I guess with a little bit of more tools which come in, people's productivity may improve a bit. But again, probably I'm old-fashioned, maybe. But I do believe that your productivity also improves when you see how your peers are doing.
Yeah.
Right? I think their ability to understand from the peers, which you are probably not being able to do online because everybody is really, stuck to their own screens. That peer pressure in some form or the other is just not there on managing your productivity. And I don't know, I may be totally wrong, but that's, from whatever little I'm seeing of my team and so on. And I guess productivity will improve because if the functions, whether it's finance, HR, or whatever, as I said, if they start adopting technologies in a much better manner, then I think automatically the productivity will start improving. If you're not able to do that, then I don't see productivity improving at all.
No, very interesting thought, Rakesh. I mean, indeed, the part that we've been hearing is, it's been in that diminishing utility curve.
Yeah.
So it goes up and then eventually comes down. So the initial anxiousness will drive people to work harder, longer. but then after a point in time, you run into issues. So if you to keep it sustainable, like you said, you have to throw in a lot of technology, you have to throw in a lot of
Right.
other factors. Otherwise, it will again default back, to the their normal. So I think very interesting. I know we're running short of time. We
I
won't
have to get into another call, Deepak.
correct.
So sorry.
Yeah. No problem. No problem. I do understand. So why don't I, shut up and let Deepak ask any questions that he has.
I think it was as always. I think it was a brilliant learning. The biggest takeaway and what I'm really enjoying these days is to see the CFOs talking about everything except the numbers. So I'm sure the numbers are all well taken care of.
दीपक लब्बड़ की तो ऐसी बजी हुई है उसको लब्बड़ के फायदा होगा.
Yeah. Actually, most of the the multinationals and most of the more seasoned professionals, I'm sure Rakesh would also be doing it. People are looking at this as a very good year, from a finance standpoint, to strengthen their balance sheets and to cover all sort of risks, from an external market standpoint also. I know Rakesh understands what I'm talking of. It's actually a blessing in disguise, Rakesh, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, but that would be true for anybody. इतना लॉस हो गया तो चलो यार 20% का और सही यार इन्वेस्टमेंट कर दो जितनी कर सकते हो इस साल and probably gain up the next year. So that's probably definitely blessing in disguise in multiple ways, I would say so. But great, Rakesh. Thank you very much for your time. I think.
Thank you very much. Good meeting you. Good meeting you, Deepak. Good meeting you.
Look forward meeting you in person soon. I hope that happens sooner than later.
Happy to meet up with you. If Akshi, you're traveling, I don't know that you're traveling or not, Deepak, but Akshi, if you are traveling to Hyderabad.
Oh yeah, I will indeed be down there. I will definitely give you a shout, Rakesh. We should definitely have a cup of coffee, beer, or whatever works. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Lovely catching up. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye, Deepak.
Bye bye.
Great. Good one, Aksh. Nice. Good call. Interesting guy. I'm meeting for the first time myself, but a good gentleman.
Yeah. But all these these CFOs, especially so India has a huge captive market, right? So all the captive market CFOs, if you see, whether you're running a BPO or you're running an IT, it's like you're boxed, because all you're doing is you're managing a cost function. You have zero revenue.
I totally understand.
Revenue is only transfer pricing, which is there at the global part. So you're only managing the cost. So, but there's a huge amount of people which are getting into this. So really, the challenges that people like Rakesh would go through will be far and few. क्योंकि भाई ऊपर से पैसा आएगा, वो ट्रांसफर प्राइसिंग तुम्हारा 100 रुपए है तो 100 का 105 रुपए आपको रेवेन्यू आ जाएगा. तो आपको सिर्फ अपना कॉस्ट का बजट अप्रूव कराना है कि कितना खर्चा करना है, कितना नहीं करना है, और ढंग से चलानी है.
नौकरी नहीं छोड़ते लोग यार. They just stick on at the same place for ages because that's the safest job they can actually.
Exactly, कुछ करना नहीं है.
Yeah. So, I know both his bosses very well, in fact, to be honest. His immediate boss is Tanik Ideal, whose boss is Arindam Banerjee, and I know both of them very, very well. And
Okay.
So yeah, so I mean, whenever you're pitching down for the Wells Fargo business in Hyderabad, I will do it in more strategic manner. I'll probably go to Hyderabad together, and we'll go to Arindam's house or at Tanesh's house, or call them out somewhere for a drink, and call Rakesh also, and we'll have a small get together. So we can actually do this in a more strategic manner, because I know these folks quite well otherwise. But wonderful, yeah. This is great, Aksh. You becoming an expert, man, in doing all this stuff. This is
this is something, which I used to do when I've left, right? So CFO, finance. I mean, I think in my role also, it's easy to connect with the CFOs because exactly you know their language.
Yeah, who heads the technology business at EXL? Yeah, मेरे को उसका number भेजेगा.
Baljinder.
Will you? That's Sadar, right?
Yeah, Sadar. Yeah.
Sadar, correct. Will you forward me his number?
Yeah, right away, no problem.
And can I speak to him with your reference?
Yeah, बिल्कुल, Baljinder Singh.
ठीक है. I'll do that.
Kya hua? What happened? You want to speak to him?
No, nothing. I wanted to speak to. We're doing something on these IT companies and the technology, a story around that. So I wanted to reach out to this Excel chap around this here. So,
Yeah. No, he's a good guy. I'd say my hi to him. I've not spoken to him for a long time. I'll give my
good.
reference. Apna
I'll
purana dost hai, you know, and tell him. And he forced me. He introduced me to Glenn Morangi. I still remember.
No, he and I have bumped into each other, but it's been years. I mean, he's been there for the last 8-9 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, longer than that. Longer than that.
So I remember meeting up with him about 4 years back at a friend's place, but we never got connected generally. So now we just think. So that's the reason you mentioned the name. I said, yeah, it's Sardar. I know him. So I've bumped into him.
Yeah.
Good.
No problem
Chalo.
here. I'll just send you the number. It would have
Yeah.
reached you by now. So
Again.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Good.
And, we're going to catch up soon.
Sure.
I'm going to be in Delhi on Friday, but I'm doing a morning evening. So, but I'll catch up with you in January when I come in more peace.
Sure. No problem here.
इस 22 को अगर आ रहा है और
मैं बताता हूँ. Yeah.
let me know.
Yeah. Sure. I'll let you know. Okay. All right, man.
Thank you,
Talk to you. Bye-bye.
All right, cheers.
Bye.
Bye.